What's up, everybody? This is the 14th episode of the Ramblin Rebels podcast. Today we have Coach Laborde and Enrique Delgado with me today. So Coach Laborde, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, there's not a whole lot to tell, man. I said, y'all down to episode 14, y'all got rid of all the interesting people. Y'all must be running out of content. You work your way all the way down to me.
I beg to differ. You're a very interesting person. That is why you're on here.
So a little bit about myself. I mean, I'm in my second career as an educator. I guess I'm in year 15 or 16 doing that. Before that, I spent 18 years toting a badge and gun in New Orleans, and decided I wanted to stop locking kids up and start helping them. So I got an education. Spent my first decade or so at at-risk schools. Then I decided I want to spend more time with my young kids. The best way to do that was to move to a school where I'd feel comfortable sending them. So after one other stop, that's what kind of led me here to Riverside.
Right. So you told us you were a cop in New Orleans. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how was the life as a cop in New Orleans? What was some of the adversities you had to face?
I mean, it was what it was. You know what I mean? It's New Orleans. Everybody knows is a dangerous place. It always has been. It's probably the last 30 years one of the highest crime rates, violent crime rates per capita in the country. I was on the violent offender task force, so we spent a lot of our time in the projects in New Orleans, kind of kicking doors and taking names, right? So it was, on the streets in New Orleans, they kind of called us the Jump Out Boys. But we were a task force that hunted felony warrants through, officially through 13 parishes, but based primarily in Orleans Parish.
What made you decide to become a cop?
It was kind of an indirect thing. So, I graduated from school with 2 degrees in business, and spent the first 5 or so years out of college working in the business world. And I was working in the marketing department of a locally owned company, and they were bought out by an out-of-state group. And I was offered a chance to move with them to Colorado, but I was going through a divorce at the time, and I didn't want to leave my kids. And so I didn't take that job, and I was looking for work. Spent about 6 months interviewing with different companies, and everybody was looking to have you transfer, leave and go to Houston, leave and go to Dallas, leave and go to Atlanta. And I wasn't going to do that. If I was going to leave the state, I'd have gone to Colorado and wouldn't have been looking for work in the first place. So one of the best ways to not have to leave the state of Louisiana was to go to work for the state of Louisiana. And with a degree in business and knowing my way around financial statements, my first job with the state, I was a fraud investigator for the welfare department. That wasn't true law enforcement, but it was an investigative type of job. So that just brought me down that path. From there, I wound up at the State Police Academy, and that's what led to where I was. So.
Right. So your resume is very long. We have talked about this.
That's just because I'm old, man. That's just because I'm old. That's all.
So you've been in a movie. Tell us a little bit about that movie.
I've done, counting the one we did here on campus a few years ago, I've been in 3. Right. The first 2 were, it wasn't like it was this giant casting thing. I used to referee high school and college basketball. They were both movies about basketball. And for reality's sake, they got actual referees to do it. So the first one was Glory Road. That was done by Disney and was based on the first college to start 5 African-American players on the same team. And it was filmed all around. We used Jesuits Gym in New Orleans. We used Chalmette's Gym. So that was the first one. And then the second one came about, and they used the same technical advisor for the basketball component of the movie. That was hurricane season. They used the same guy to be the basketball technical advisor. So when they said they needed referees, he called pretty much the same group of guys, and we wound up doing hurricane season as well. So like I said, it was neither were full on acting where we auditioned or anything. We just happened to be real life officials, and that's what they needed for the movie.
All right. So you're a track coach, right? You're my track coach. Tell us a little bit why you like track and like in some of the other sports. You coach track, football, and baseball here.
Here I've been, I've coached football. Obviously, I spent 1 year as a head baseball coach, and then moved into track. In the past, I've coached pretty much everything. I've coached wrestling. I've coached, I've been doing it long enough that I've done multiple sports at various levels, be it middle school, be it high school, be it rec ball, travel ball, the whole 9 yards. Track in particular, what I like about track is, football's so intense, right? We're intense all the time.
Right.
We're on you guys all the time as football coaches, and track's a little more laid back. So you get to show a little bit more of your personality. I think you get to be a little more relaxed, a little more chilled with your athletes.
Right.
It is an individual sport, so individual motivation comes into it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like the fact that you're coaching, multiple disciplines, right? Like you don't coach a 100-meter runner the same way you would coach a 400-meter runner, or the same way you would coach a distance runner. You don't coach a long jumper the same way you would coach a high jumper, right? The discipline for the discus is much different than it is for the javelin. So there's a lot of versatility in it, and that's one of the things that I like about it.
Out of all the sports you've coached, you said you coached wrestling and all the other sports. Which one do you say did you like the most in coaching?
Well, I think that my most enjoyable times, I spent 12 years as a head football coach, and I think that's probably the top in terms of what I enjoy. Football is my passion, it is. And I think that I'm a natural leader, so I like being in charge. And, so running a program was great. I got out for a few years and was an athletic director, so I could spend more time with my kids when they were younger. And I missed it too much, so I wanted to get back into coaching, and that's when I had an opportunity to come here and be the defensive coordinator. So as much as I like being a head coach, sometimes it's nice to just be able to be with the guys and not have to be on that island that you are as a head coach. Like all the assistant coaches, it's kind of like a family. It's almost like a team of its own, right? We rib each other, and we're able to do those kinds of things where, a head coach has to be a little bit removed from it. So I've seen both sides of it. I like being in charge. I like, being responsible for making the decisions with regards to the direction of a program. But it is nice to be able to take a step back and just be one of the guys too.
Right. What position are you most familiar coaching on the football team?
I've coached pretty much every position on the defense. Right now I'm coaching DBs, and I enjoy that. Linebacker's probably my favorite of the three defensive positions to coach.
Why?
When you're coaching D-line, it's run stuffing and getting to the quarterback, right? And when you're coaching DBs, it's pass coverage primarily, right? Some run fits with the safeties. But in my opinion, linebacker is the toughest position on the field of play. You've got to be able to play the run and the pass equally. You've got to be able to deduce what the play is extremely quickly and be able to react to it. And then there's a physicality to the position that I think is it's more intense than it is in either of the other two positions. As a D lineman, you're lined up nose to nose with your guy more times than not, and you're just getting after him. With a linebacker, it's chasing a run back to a flat or dropping to an underneath zone or even getting into a deep zone if it's a Tampa 2 coverage, but it's also taking on a pulling guard. It's getting in there and stuffing a hole and taking on a fullback. So to me, it's one of the more versatile. It's one of the toughest positions to play.
Would you say anybody that excelled at that position that you've coached in the past years, maybe here too?
Well, I think that we have a really, really good one right now. We just moved him in this year, but I think that Caleb Brumfield is going to be an unbelievable linebacker before he's done. I've had some good ones in the past. I think that, one that comes to mind was a kid by the name of Vi Puhiva, played for me when I was a head coach in Florida. Unbelievable talent. He was a Samoan kid. He was actually a descendant of or cousin to Roman Reigns and some of the Samoans that are in the WWE, so he was tough as nails. A little bit undersized, but you're talking about a kid that was 6 feet tall and about 210 pounds and was squatting 6'10" on the powerlifting team, and was just a monster.
That's crazy. So, tell us a little bit about your 1 year coaching baseball. What was that like?
I enjoy it. I really enjoy coaching the younger kids in baseball. You know, jumping into baseball, I did it. They came and asked me if I would take it over when they made a change, spur of the moment. Middle of the school year, really. It was late in October, and really baseball ramps up in earnest in December. So they asked me to come in and do it. They know I had done it before. Doing football and baseball simultaneously is tough. I mean, baseball is probably the second most demanding sport after football. The season is crazy. You're playing 35 games in a little over 60 days. So the overwhelming majority of your practice goes in preseason, because once the season starts, you're playing almost every day. And it's all of the other stuff that goes with baseball, right? I mean, you spend hours upon hours getting the field ready, and you're constantly cutting grass and dragging fields and adding dirt and do it. And so, that part of it makes it a little tedious, right? And but in terms of the actual instruction, it's fun. I mean, you're teaching fielding and hitting, and and so to do just that, like I said, I've really enjoyed doing travel ball with the younger kids, because you can focus on baseball and you don't have to focus on all the other things.
Mm-hmm. Going away from your coaching, sports and whatever, what do you do outside of school? What are your hobbies?
It's pretty much exactly what I do when I'm at school. Like I said, I spend my free time. I do play golf. I love to play golf whenever I get a chance. But it's still working with kids. It's still coaching. I mean, I run the summer camp here. It's a sports-themed summer camp, so I spend, of the 12 weeks we're off during the summer, I have 8 to 10 of those weeks are doing camp, where we're teaching athletic movement and change of direction and sinking hips and doing those kinds of things just with the younger kids. I help with my 9-year-old son's travel ball team. I help whenever I can with my 13-year-old son's travel ball team. When I get a chance, I'm out doing T-ball with my granddaughter and her little teams, right? So I've got a 4-year-old granddaughter. So it's pretty much exactly what I do here and get paid for, I do in my free time as a volunteer.
So you like doing what you do here?
Oh, I do. I do. I think that one of the things I was told a long time ago was if you find something to do for a career that you love, you won't ever feel like you're actually working. Right. Like I said, I didn't intend on being a cop. I kind of fell into that profession. There were many, many days doing that where I just didn't feel like getting up and going to work. I mean, you do it, but they were just, it was a drudgery a lot of times. I don't have that problem now. There's not a time where it's like, oh, I don't want to go to work today. I truly love working with kids. I love helping kids. I think that, it's one of the most rewarding things you can do. My first job as a head coach, all my kids came from the projects in New Orleans. Those guys are late 20s, early 30s now. Some of the kids we got, when we got them in school, were reading on a 3rd or 4th grade level. And some of my biggest success stories are watching those guys grow up to be good men. I've got a young man that I got him as a 9th grader and spent time in the Desire Project, sitting on the end of a bed the day his daddy died. We got him up to where he needed to be academically, and I was very fortunate to be sitting in the PMAC when he walked across the stage as an LSU graduate. And so, regardless of kids who get to the league or whatever, that is why I got into coaching. That is the biggest success stories, of watching those kids and having those guys that are 28, 29, 30 years old still text on holidays and even on Father's Day, just shooting a text message talking about, I love you, coach, and those kinds of things. So you're never going to be rich. You'll be a hell of a lot richer working in the plants than you will be coaching high school ball. But I love what I do, and watching guys succeed is a reward for it.
Right. So me and you had a conversation. We were at practice throwing the shot put.
Mm-hmm.
you're on this weight loss journey.
I am.
Correct.
I am.
So, tell us a little bit about your weight loss journey. What are your goals for
Well, part of it is aggravating as all hell because I let myself get heavy once before, and lost a ton of weight, like 60 pounds, and then over the last 7 or 8 years, I went through 5 major surgeries. Plus, we went through the hurricane and we went through the pandemic, and I wound up putting the bulk of it back on. So. Yeah, I've dedicated myself to it. Again, I'm getting older. In the last 6 months, 3 guys that I went to high school with have died. Mike Leach, the coach at Mississippi State, was only a couple of years older than me and dropped dead from a heart attack. So that's kind of the motivation, right? Most guys my age don't still have children as young as mine, and I really want to make sure that I'm around, for them. So I started out the year at almost 270 pounds, and my plan is to drop down to 220, 225, and so far through, I guess, almost a month now, I'm down almost 20, down 18, down to 250, and back in the gym 3 days a week, and I really love working out. I feel great after a workout, and so I don't know why I ever got lazy and stopped doing it, but so I chart and track everything that I eat. I know exactly how many calories I've eaten every day. I know exactly how many grams of protein I've eaten every day. And I'm making sure I work out 3 to 4 days a week. And we're not going to stop until we get out. So it's about 30 more to go.
Gotcha. So we always talk about food on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to start off easy. What was your personal opinion on the Sicilies and LaPlace?
Man, especially fat me loved it. You know what I mean? I felt like, it wasn't gourmet by any stretch of the imagination, but it, wasn't rot gut food. And you could just sit there and strap on a feed bag and eat, to your heart's content. So, in that respect, I'm sorry to see it go.
Right. So is there any other, restaurants here, outside of here, anywhere in the whole country that you love?
I think one of my favorite restaurants on the planet is Préjean's in Lafayette. Préjean's is just, you go in there on a Saturday and you see all the tour buses and you think it must be a tourist trap. But if you go in there on Wednesday at lunch, it's nothing but locals and it's just as packed. And it's, if you've never eaten there, you need to give it a shot. My first 2 courses are always exactly the same. I do duck and andouille gumbo to start, and then an appetizer version of their crawfish enchiladas. Then it can be any of a number of things for an entree, but those first 2 are, go-to, absolutely.
So is there any local restaurants that bring you back that you always gotta go to?
I'm kind of a creature of habit, so I tend to go to a certain place for a certain thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's not one restaurant in particular that I go to all the time. But I know if I go here, this is what I'm going to get. If I go there, that's what I'm going to get. There's probably some that I like that I would go to more frequently, but almost 25 years being married, you kind of go where the wife wants to go, and you find something to eat where she wants to go. Happy wife, happy life.
Oh, yeah.
And what is your favorite food?
I am 100%, and it's odd to say that Préjean's is my favorite place, and it's a Cajun place, but I am a meat and potatoes guy.
Potatoes?
Meat and potatoes,
How you?
It doesn't matter. So steak, roast beef. When I was a kid, going to our grandparents every Sunday for big Sunday family thing, it was always a big roast and mashed potatoes. So roast beef and mashed potatoes. Roast beef, po' boy, and fries, it don't matter. If it's meat and potatoes, if I was on death row in Angola, bring me a steak and a baked potato. That's what I want. The hell with the crawfish. Bring me a steak. I'll turn in my Kunas card right now. Bring me a steak and baked potato.
All right. So that's going to be the end of the podcast. Is there anything else you want to say?
Oh, man, just you guys keep doing a great job and love being part of the Rebel family.
All right. Y'all have a great day.